Greetings, I am Lies and I use she, her.
And I am Scandal and I use they, them.
And let's play a game together. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Alright, so we are back again and we're excited to continue this playthrough and to introduce you to how fabulous
These creators are and their new release, which we all want you to go play, which is Pyreside Waltz with the demo.
It is.
Please, it looks fabulous.
Yeah, we are so excited to do it after this is done. It's gonna be amazing.
It'll be great. I just grabbed up another bottle and patch of fabric with the low hum of Niarg's voice gives me pause.
We've paused. You can leave the wrapping to me, but would you mind grabbing me more bottles from that shelf over there?
He's in the middle of tending to a customer, gently swaddling a trio of bottles in a large square of fabric to serve as a makeshift bag. One tentacle points over my back, towards a shelf against the wall that's neatly stocked with bottles upon bottles of honey. It's only on second glance that I realize the stock of bottles behind the counter is running low. Business must have been booming in the time that I was lost to my work.
I love that Phil is just like, I was only head empty, only wrap.
I got this. I am focused. Sure thing.
Thanks.
I clamber to my feet, making sure not to knock anything over as I slip out from behind the counter. The crowd's mostly thinned out, allowing me to move between people more easily as I make my way towards the shelf, and I hike the folds of my cloak up past my elbows once more, just to make sure they don't get in the way.
That thing where you have to roll up your sleeves again.
And
again.
And again. And again. And again. What looks to be a small family is looking over the shelf when I approach, and I excuse myself as I step past them. The jostling of glass bottles catches the attention of the small child they've brought along, and I look over when I feel eyes on me, realizing then that the child is staring at me.
Huge eyes.
They look awfully displeased, wide mouth flattened into a thin line with just a peak of fangs poking through.
Oh.
Can I help you? I smile a little at the child, just enough to seem friendly without crinkling the raw skin of my face so hard that pus seeps through. The child seems unimpressed, all four eyes squinting at me.
I don't like it here.
The pouting voice is just enough to catch the attention of the parents, who look over to me. One gives me an apologetic smile. I smile back before returning my attention to the child. Why not? Doesn't it smell nice in here? A crinkling of the nose and hands clenched tight tells me the answer is no.
Ew. No. It smells too much. I don't like this smell.
It's a curious response. I don't think I've ever met anyone who doesn't like the smell of honey. There's a reason it's considered such a universal luxury and treat. One of the parents shakes their head in mild exasperation, but I consider my words for a moment before responding. It's certainly rare for anyone to openly dislike honey, but maybe they'll like it in time. It's alright not to like it, or do they like anything else?
I have always thought of Vil as less like basically telling people who or what they should be, and more of like, well, if not this thing,
why not this? That's actually what I was thinking.
Do you like anything else? And
honestly, like, both are fine. It's okay if you don't like it. Is there anything else? Like, you just sort of move on from that point going, okay, validate your point. What do you like?
And one of the things that I enjoy about the options in this game is that all of them feel reasonable for the character. It doesn't feel like it makes the character into a really different person.
Yes.
So one of the things that I find difficult to navigate in some other multiple choice games occasionally is when it feels like the character will be a completely different person.
Yes.
If they make a different choice. And
well, like I've said before, sometimes you just go, why the hell is this other choice even here? It just feels like it's shoved there because, well, you need a choice, right?
And if you're making your own character, sure, that can help define a personality that you make up on your own.
Right.
But if the character is already someone in the game, you know, in this case, Vil's a person already with a name.
Yeah.
Then having it all be basically different experiences they could express depending on how they're feeling in that moment is something I find uniquely charming.
Yeah, absolutely. Do they like anything else? Well, if they don't like honey very much, then maybe they like something else. After a moment of thought, I crouch down so I'm close to the child's eye level, keeping my weight carefully balanced on my hands. The child looks at me with mixed curiosity and caution.
I also really enjoy that was all in Bill's head.
Uh-huh.
And so it's a process of what am I going to do rather than choose what to say.
I know!
It's neat. So you're really genuinely interacting with the character rather than just the environment and picking choices to turn the page.
Right?
I think it's neat.
Then, can I ask what you do like?
What I like?
I nod and wait for them to answer. The child hems and haws, gnawing on their own hand, and I take the opportunity to glance up at the parents. They give me a slightly exasperated smile, no doubt accustomed to dealing with their child's antics, but nudge the child to answer. The child finally extricates spittle-soaked claws from its mouth to tell me.
I like blood more.
I grin widely. I can feel the raw skin on my face stretch from the movement, but the child doesn't seem to mind. That's neat. I really like blood too. Blood salt is one of my favorites.
Here's my favorite. My mom's and dad gave me some on my birthday.
Oh, that's so cute.
It's really
So,
cute.
before, I will tell you, we picked a different option last time, but I did not remember, because I didn't know that this child was going to go, my mom's
So
and dad.
one of the neat things in here, if you do end up playing the entire game, is there is a lot of really cool representation in the sense that the society feels very non-gendered, even though you have he, she, and they.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't feel like any of those things mean anything other than a personal identity. It doesn't feel like they're shoving anyone into a role.
Uh-huh.
Because
Especially
it's
because you're
not-
all monsters. What the fuck?
I say,
you know?
it's also not where the game focuses, but it's also really neat that the game very solidly represents queer, identities
Relationships,
and
yeah.
relationships, even in a poly sense.
Yeah.
And you get several examples throughout the different choices and routes that are very comfortably put in very positive ways.
Yeah, it's really sweet. I really like it in this game. It's very casual, too, which makes it feels more natural. It's not a, here, let's shove this in your way. But that is also a question sometimes that, as somebody who identifies as queer, going, how much, basically, representation is enough? And sometimes I feel like that's a question that some people really should try asking themselves and answer. Because the thing is that I feel like the community at large isn't very consistent with it. So there's a thing of, like, where there's a lot of people who lash out going, this is not enough, but this is enough. And you're like, but you said before a kiss wasn't enough, and now a kiss is enough?
And
Like, what is the difference here? What's the tone? We should be more explicit with our standards if that's what you're going to talk about for, quote, good representation. Or just go, you know what? It's okay, whatever rep there is. Or going, if there is something that is different, talking about it in more detail or in more depth is required, rather than just going, God, this was bad.
One of the really neat things about story analysis, or literary analysis, or media analysis, is that it helps you come to a point of understanding your own thoughts and what you're actually looking for better. It helps you also understand what's actually there. So a lot of people have described to me when they read stories and experience them, they just sort of let the emotional sort of tone of things wash over them. And my friend talked about that in just the episode before, of just, you're just feeling your way through it and just letting the events just sort of run through you. And you can come to places where you might lose your sense of, your suspension of disbelief.
Right.
Where you might suddenly feel more grumpy at the story, or you feel more excited. And you get to the end and you may either love, hate, or have a neutral reaction to it somewhere on that spectrum. But the thing is you might not know why you felt any of those things.
Yeah.
So often when I ask people what they love about something, they just go, wow, it's so amazing. And it's like, what does so amazing mean? And while you don't have to quantify absolutely everything, it can be really helpful if you're able to make a list of things that made it so amazing, so you can then find more things that fall into that category and give you more things you love in your life.
You are more likely to find repeat experiences of those things if you can clearly identify better
what they are.
The things that you actually enjoy. And also sometimes actually having an awareness of those things also allows you, in my experience, to pick them out of series that maybe you might have never seen them before.
And what I really like in here is that you have for the reader queer rep, but in the game it doesn't seem like it is at all. It just seems normal.
Yeah, it's very normal.
It's not anything spectacular at all. In the same way that Vil has, pus just draining from their face, and it's part of who they are. And while they might be concerned that one of their features would startle a child, no adult or person reacts to it as if it's anything abnormal at all.
Not even slightly.
In the same way that when we're describing other people, you never mention bandages or flayed skin or rotting flesh or anything. It's just everyone's different.
It's also...
So there's an incredible level of inclusiveness, and the ARC story is really interesting because it's the only piece of discrimination.
I know!
But I think that's really interesting.
I will have to say really quickly, though, also as well, it's also very useful to find out the things that you enjoy out of a piece of media, especially in regards to, like, literary analysis or what your focuses are, because that's more about you, and you could say the same thing of people who also critique or discuss basically any kind of media, that those are their values, the thing that they have interest in, what they have expectations for. Now, it's not to say that those things aren't important, but it is something to realize that when someone is going, here's a review of a movie, you can pick out going, oh, this person's priorities are probably like this, because those are the things they choose to focus on.
And that's a lot of times when I'm critiquing something, I'll say, to me this feels like, or for me I think. And because it's really my opinion. Some people enjoy repeated words, they enjoy reused sentences, they really enjoy either a simple, language that just plows along and gets through the story really quickly. Some people like it way more flowery and complex, and there's nothing wrong with any of it. It's just a preference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even when you read through how to write something or how to create a story, any rule that you hear is really someone's preference for what they like to see and what they feel is valuable.
It's very flexible, especially depending on your genre. So that's why it's actually very important. So some people talk about, like, if you're ever going to write a story in reference to a particular genre, you're going to want to understand the tropes of that genre, and therefore also ways to either subvert them or add in new ideas. Because the thing is that without being aware of what they are, you could sometimes write yourself into a corner and not understand what you've done.
Or have the experience where, again, someone will just suddenly lose connection to your story because the thing they were getting drawn in on isn't actually concluded because you were writing it as a formula, not really as knowing what it means.
Exactly.
It's a thing that I've called in many of our other playthroughs story appropriation.
Yeah.
Where it's... and I'm going to say this only because the term is common. They have not the same weight at all. Like cultural appropriation. Yeah. You pick up something that you don't know what the meaning or value of is, but looks cool, and you use it. Or you know it should be there. And in story appropriation, it's like, I know that when you're writing an adventure story, you have to get a group of people together, you have to have them get a quest, you have to have them go on it and run into some kind of trouble, you have to have them find a mentor or help character, you have to have them find an object, you have to have them get, hit a setback, and then you have to have them meet the big bad guy, and then resolve and win. And the thing is that might all theoretically be true, but if you don't know why any of those things have happened, it feels incredibly hollow and awkward. And I have read some books where I'm like, these things don't connect to each other at all. They're just there because you're saying, well, that's what happens in an adventure story.
And it's actually really funny sometimes once you start observing basically like literary tropes or ideas, especially with someone who is an unaware writer, who's just sort of regurgitating what they've heard, you can really watch the process actually literally break down into steps where the characters just abruptly do a thing, or a thing abruptly happens, there's no connection to the greater world, like, that gives you information. Like, and there's nothing wrong with surprises, but the thing is then there's no other information to allow you to understand or comprehend the theme of what's going on.
It basically connects to nothing. It's just a beat in, well, this is something that happens in adventure stories.
Well, and this is where the beat drops, and you go, but what? Why? Yeah.
So, on my birthday.
You're so lucky. That sounds really great. I hope you get a bunch on your next birthday, too.
I will.
The parents laugh quietly at the firm conviction in the child's voice. Seeming embarrassed, the child quickly turns away and buries their face in their parents' clothes, stamping their feet slightly on the floor. Though muffled against the fabric, I can hear the quiet sounds of them whining.
Stop laughing.
I settle for
I freaking love that because I know exactly what that
Yes.
gesture is. It turns around, Barry's face, the stomping in embarrassment kind of thing, like just trying to get it out of your body.
I settle for grinning to myself as I pile my arms high with bottles of honey, and I give the parents a small nod as I make my way back to the counter. I can still hear the sounds of the parents quietly chiding the child as I round the corner where Nyarg is diligently wrapping up 3 bottles of honey at a time.
And running out even faster.
Looks like you made a friend. Nyarg speaks up at a low rumble, even as he keeps working, and I laugh. I wouldn't know about that, but at least I haven't made any enemies. I get a soft huff in return. For a few moments, the air is punctured only by the sounds of wrapping fabric rustling, and the rhythmic thump-thump as I carefully
Put
down bottles one by one. Sorry, that's a little case of repeated words, and probably wasn't edited.
I'll say,
correctly.
that one is actually an accident, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Again, they can leave this game be, we still love it as it is.
Oh, absolutely.
First projects can have first project errors. Move forward, be awesome.
When I glance over at the store floor, one of the parents has picked the child up so they can look at one of the higher-up bee cages together.
Oh, they're regulars.
Oh?
Come by once in a while. Kid never seems too happy. Always felt a little bad about it. So it's good of you to humor them a little.
Well, I didn't do anything special. It feels rare for Nyarg to praise anyone so openly. I feel oddly sheepish about it. Settling down the last few bottles on the shelf, I quickly look them over for any cracks or damage.
Did I hurt any of it?
No, it's okay.
I just said what anyone else would say.
You'd be surprised. I would not be surprised. I have seen a lot of adults talk to kids.
Yeah.
So many.
And a lot of adults really do like to put down kids pretty aggressively, and it's really sad.
Or there's a level of controlling them, like the statement of, well, you will like it, or you have to like it, or just eat it anyways until you teach yourself to like it. Stockholm yourself into enjoying beer.
Yeah, even though that's... I know that the term Stockholm is misused a lot.
It
and
is.
2, it's also a very... it's not really scientifically
I say,
correct
the whole
anyway.
thing doesn't actually exist in the way that it is purported to exist, nor does it mean what it means, but socially, people know what it means.
Yeah.
The phrase has the function, even if the historical event doesn't.
Another huff from Nyarg, louder this time. I look over to see a brief grit of teeth before he purses his lips.
Sometimes people aren't flexible enough. Don't consider that other people think differently. So you did something good for that kid.
His voice is firm. I get the odd feeling that acting too modest right now isn't the right thing to do, so I end up nodding, even as I feel my own face warm a little. Thanks. Luckily, it doesn't take much longer to stock the shelf behind the counter. With these many bottles on hand, Nyarg should be able to see out the rest of the day without much trouble, I think. I dust my hands off before grabbing my pack, double-checking the floor to make sure I haven't dropped any salt packets. With how far behind the schedule I already am, it would be disastrous if I left a delivery packet that had to come back for it.
I'm going to mention something else about this game here that I think is really cool. So there's a lot of visual novels that have an important object or an important time frame or a thing that a character cares about a whole lot, and it gets dropped consistently during scenes where it should be important based on previously established behavior of the character. And I love that Vil never forgets their pouch. Like, over and over again in every scene, it's something that the writers were continually aware of.
Yeah.
And continually paid attention to because it's something Vil cares about. And it means a lot to me how consistent that is. There's never a point where I'm like, you're doing what? I can't believe you would do that with your thing in your hands, or when this is a consideration. And there's a lot of games where I'll do that, and it's like, you just dove into a pool when the sacred dissolvable thing is in your pocket, and later it didn't matter and wasn't actually a thing, and I'm just like, but then it matters again. And it's like... It's just, I appreciate...
It's inconsistent, basically, world building or awareness.
I appreciate very solidly when someone establishes a detail that's important by telling the reader it's important.
Yeah.
And then continues to treat it that way.
Yep, absolutely. Nyarg, I have to get going. Nyarg's tentacles stop moving as he turns to look at me with his full attention. It makes me feel weirdly self-conscious, and my voice catches in my throat for a moment. Is Alright.
I freaking love that because he is made of multitasking,
Uh-huh.
and I have stopped everything to pay attention to you, and Bill's like, oh, that's a big deal.
Woo-hoo. It's very...
Woos.
Uh-huh.
It's a very ooh-woo moment.
It is.
Of course.
He gives a solemn nod in response.
Thank you very much, Bill. I would love to see him nod.
I would
Like, I would be
too.
very interested whether that's like an internal bone gesture kind of thing, like if jaws shift kind of thing, or if it's like the whole body sort of bobbing, more like a bow, or you know, a tip. Like, I am very interested in what Niarg's expressive behavior is.
It would be great.
So hard.
Niarg's voice vibrates deeper than usual. He tends to speak quietly, without much emphasis, but his words at the moment feel oddly weighty, like he's saying something he considers very important. I shake my head and give him a smile. It's no problem at all. I'm glad I could help.
You don't need to be so humble. I know you took valuable time out of your route to help me, and I appreciate it greatly. You helped me tremendously.
The smiles.
I love the freaking smiles.
I'm reminded of the fact that Niarg usually mans the store alone. Always. Even for those who have good energy and stamina, it's unusual for anyone to run a store completely alone. So maybe it means that much more for Niarg that I decided to stay and help. I really can't afford to lose any more time, so I start adjusting the straps of my pack and the folds of my robe even as I nod. Well, I'm really glad I could help. If you ever need any help on another day, just let me know. Niarg gives an almost imperceptible nod, watching as I start to round the corner to leave, but stops me at the last moment.
Bill?
Yes? Perhaps sensing my need to leave quickly, he answers promptly.
I'd like to show you my appreciation with more than words. If you have time after you finish your route, I'd like it if you came by the store afterwards. That's that nervous gesture again of going, a little shy, slightly awkward. I love the tentacle on his, you know, like sort of thinking of like on the top of him. Like, I don't want to name his anatomy without it being, you know, but like, and also the one sort of curled up next to his, you know, teeth on the bottom. Like, it's very sweet.
It's really cute. It's a curious proposal. I've never visited Niarg's store so late. I hesitate for only a moment before grinning and nodding. Sure, I could probably do that. Thanks.
Be safe. Good luck on your route.
Thanks.
Also me going, wait, he works alone?
Alone?
Absolute bachelor.
Ooh.
He is available.
He sees me off without any more fanfare, returning to his work and only sparing one tentacle to give me a wave as I head out the door.
Okay,
Bye.
reaching around the corner.
Bye-bye.
Just real gently. In the
All
meantime,
right.
the various bees who love Vil are like, as they go by. Vil, no, I can't say goodbye. I have to leave.
Goodbye, babies.
Goodbye, babies.
Babies. As I exit the store, a fresh gaggle of customers approaches the door, no doubt looking to make some last-minute honey or bee purchases. As rushed as I am, I make sure to hold the door open for them before starting down the street. The sweet smell of honey accompanies it for a few paces before slowly loosening its grip on me, allowing the bite of plain air to return to my lungs, a reminder of the job I have to do. Still, as I quickly ramp up into a steady gallop, I'm briefly reminded of the way Niarg had thanked me. The deep rumble of his voice, the intense focus with which he'd regarded me, the gravity of his words. Salt delivery is such a routine job that few people appreciate it on a daily basis, so being thanked so sincerely for anything feels unusual in a good way. The thought that I was able to help Niarg in such a meaningful way gives me a warm feeling in the pit of my stomach, and my pace quickens as I wind through the scattering of people on the street. I should keep up the good work so I can end the day feeling good. Time to focus on my route.
Mew. Thanks, Vil. Seems like you had a busy day, huh? You're cutting it pretty close.
Yeah, things have been a little hectic today.
I can imagine, since tomorrow's the big day and all. Good work. You should rest up.
Thanks, I will. Have a good night.
You too.
Even smiling feels exhausting after the long day, but I still make sure to wave as I trot off, pawing at my pack to make sure all my deliveries have been taken care of. hold on. And with barely a minute to spare, I really did cut things pretty close.
I love that Vel's just a delivery person.
It's cute.
It's really charming. But also that sort of thing of, like, checking your pockets aggressively, going, is there one, like, in a fold, in a corner? Did I miss anybody anywhere?
I really do also have to say, so, like, I don't know how to explain how much this story has always felt like at least the writer and so both Miru and Hal are like, I've had experience with running errands as a job, or at least I'm aware of the pressures or something else of doing a job akin to this, so I still know what it's like, and it's not just something you glaze over or don't care about or just push by, or because I can't tell you how many other stories we played where I'm like, you really fucking don't care. You drop it as soon as the hot person shows up, basically.
Well, and it's
like,
one of those things of going, it wouldn't be important unless the writer told us it was important.
Absolutely.
And the writer will set up a lot of these stories in different visual novels we've played and be like, these things are important because I've spent time and energy describing them and connecting you to them. And then they go away when they should still be relevant based on the circumstances. And it's one of those things where, and sometimes they'll come back as if they've been there the whole time, but they clearly haven't. And it's one of those things where this does feel, again, very consistent. Like, there is, as much as I'm here to, like, sort of speak about this game or, point things out about, or critique it, if you will, it's like, I mostly just love this game.
I do too.
It's so good.
I
There's
love
so
sharing
many
this
good
story.
things about this. And so many things that are done really well in a way that I like and that works really well for me.
And that's the thing that says something about us, because you don't have to like it, and you know what? More for us. Woo! But at the same time, I don't regret it. It feels like what happened today was pivotal and absolutely worth a bit of extra running. I end up taking the long route back home, backtracking a little bit. I walk past the Overlook office, which continues to watch silently over the city. The spire's eyeballs lazily cast over the landscape, though they blink slowly now and again, as if growing tired. I cut through the park. The atmosphere here is different after dark. The spindly trees casting twisting shadows across the uneven ground. The air feels colder, too, and it feels different without Breton's boisterous presence walking by me.
I will say one thing that's taken me a lot of getting used to with this game in its particular format is when the background changes but the text doesn't restart. I often want to go to the top and start over.
Yeah.
And it's one of the only things, and I think it's because other visual novels has trained me, that when the background changes, your text starts again.
The thing, though, is that I feel like for this game, though, too, it kind of trains you as well. Because when it does tend to change backgrounds, it is and now we're going to the top of the screen again. So I don't think it's entirely, like, that was actually going to be a minor tick that I was actually going to put here for sort of a critique.
An accessibility suggestion.
Yes, because every single time I cannot stop myself from going up to the top, even when I'm like, don't do that, and it just happens.
I do that too, and so it's one of those things where, the background changes, and I immediately go, oh, new text at the top. No, I already read that. No, I already read that. Oh.
Right,
And the game, I think, does a little bit of both. Sometimes it just adds more text, and other times the text, because the page is full, will change with the background.
Right.
So it's not completely predictable. And it doesn't have to be, but for me, I'm totally
sometimes it's a little disorienting.
I get lost sometimes.
Presence walking by me. Okay, so I have to ask a question also about this paragraph, because it occurs to me, I was reading that going, the atmosphere here is different, and I'm like, do they have horror movies in this world? Do they have horror fiction? What does that even look like? Because the thing is, and suddenly all these shadows, is it supposed to be spooky? Is it just supposed to be atmospheric and thoughtful, or sentimental, or something else?
Yeah, when describing the spindly trees casting twisting shadows, it's like, does that have an emotional weight? And the thing is here, I always felt like Vil was just describing their environment, of just going, this is what's going on. But if I read that line in another story, I would feel like they were trying to set up, this is spooky, we're uncomfortable. And yet at the same time, there's a lot of other stories that that they assume language gives you the emotional tone without giving you any emotional reaction from the character.
Right.
We've actually encountered that really recently with the Arcana.
Yes.
Where it's like, you get told some information with descriptive words, and you go, okay, and then you move forward. And then it describes that you were terrified and overwhelmed by the descriptive words over there, 20 sentences ago.
And
you're like, were
what?
we? We were? Shoot, I didn't catch that.
Thanks for telling me.
Yeah, and in here, that's a really neat question. I would love to know what any of their media is, if anything, like if they have shows, if they have books, if they have plays they put on.
Right.
And whether it's like if it's just...
What does their cultural environment actually look like, and how diverse it is? Because, so there's mild spoilers, but there is actually apparently different groups of monsters, which is interesting. So
they actually cover it in this route. So
no, I know that, but I'm saying, but that is a spoiler for later on. But I'm just saying, but there are different groups, so I imagine there's different cultural things going on. So I'm like, what does that look like? How does that manifest?
I'd be very interested to know, in this city, and maybe more in the, different cultures at large, what's your storytelling traditions?
I know, right?
One, yeah.
Presents walking by me. I'm feeling quite exhausted by the time I make my way past the row of stores, excuse me. My feet feel sore, a hot ache working its way up through my ankles and up the lengths of my legs, all the way to my pit of my stomach. Even my arms hurt from bracing against the ground. I'd thought I'd long since grown used to the physical strain of running on my route, but today had certainly been a long day. My mind is occupied keeping tally of how many different places my body aches, and I almost walk right into the end of the block before the warm glow of a store window catches my attention.
Autopilot heading home.
Yark's store. His generous invitation races to the forefront of my mind. Of course. How could I have forgotten? But we're gonna have to check it out in the next one!
I was saying, we're gonna find out how Bill could have forgotten, except for probably not, in the next one!
Hey, so thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Please feel free to go check out the Pyreside Waltz demo. There are links in the description down below. We would love for you to see and check out that game. We would also love for you to play Meeting in the Flesh. Please play it. If you haven't played it, please tell us, who was your favorite route?
That one, or also, what did you like about it? We would love to hear in the comments, either if there was something that worked really well for you, or something that was off-putting, or just what your experience was with it. We've seen a lot of people, again, in playthroughs, pick this game up and then drop it. And going, something hit them and they went, that's my limit. And it's like...
And I appreciate people having that. I just find it to be so interesting, at least for me, where I'm like, I've read so many books and so many weird odds and ends throughout my life. I just find it fascinating to watch basically what people's limits are. And not like I try to force them to go through them, but it's just a thing of going what hit you in such a weird way?
And hearing someone actually talk about it in that same way of being more specific, where I said, someone going, oh, I just thought it was amazing. If you go, oh god, I really didn't like it, going, what didn't you like?
Let's be a little bit more specific. Let's do some media analysis of ourselves, personal analysis, and go, what did you enjoy? What didn't you enjoy?
And let me say, the artists and authors have come a long way. Even just watching Hal on his Twitch, which he does do live art streams. It's amazing. I was gonna say, develop his art and stuff like that. The Pyreside Waltz game is just a huge progress from this one.
Oh god, gorgeous.
Also, it has live 2D and stuff, so if you're thinking, similar game, it's not that.
Oh, not even slightly.
It is wildly more, I just want to say.
Yes. But yeah, other than that, please feel free to go check out all the links in the descriptions. There's links to Miru, there's links to Hal, there's links to our stuff, and also please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Interact with the video in some way. It actually will help a lot in regards to the YouTube algorithm. Please also feel free to go check out our Ko-fi and our Patreon. They are linked down below as well. And I've been Scandal.
And I have been Lies.
And it was great playing with you. Bye!